This is Algebra 1, Lesson 5.3 on page, it starts on 285. This is about writing linear equations when you are given 2 points, but you don't know the y-intercept. This is also a snowboarder, and you can write a linear equation that models a snowboarder's descent from the mountain. So that's why there's a snowboarder right there. We're going to use a graph, and I have one right here. To write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form, and so the first thing we have to do is to find the slope, and that's the formula m equals y2 minus 1 over x2 minus x1. When we plug in our numbers, we had a 5 here, we'll put it there. We had a 2, that would go there. That's our y2 and y1. We have a negative 4, and we have a 0. So when we subtract the 2 from the 5 and the 0 from negative 4, we get negative 3 over 4. And now we can write the equation of the line y equals mx plus b, which is the slope-intercept form. And we end up with x equals negative 3x plus 2. So all we do then is plug in for the slope-intercept. We plug in our numbers. So here's our three equations of a line. We've talked about the slope-intercept, y equals mx plus b, and the b is the y-intercept and the m is the slope. In the point-slope method, or form, we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You've done both of these, and later in this chapter we will do the standard version. So here I have modeled, this is a little car, it doesn't look like it, and so this graph shows a car's ascent up a hill, and you need to write an equation of the line in the slope-intercept form. So the first, which is right here, it's y equals mx plus b. And we plug in our numbers, and we have 0, 4, and 0, 1. So we will have, it's 4 minus 1. And then on the bottom it is 10 minus 0, so that works out to be 3 over 10. And we know that b is going to cross at the 1. The y-intercept is going to be 1, because we can see it right there on the graph. And so we have y equals negative 3/10 x plus 1. So when you're given 2 points but you don't know the y-intercept, you should first use the point-slope form to write the equation of the line that passes through the points. So first thing you're going to do is write in slope-intercept form the equation of the line that passes through the points 3 and negative 2 and 6 and 0. So to find the slope, we do the x1. We use the coordinates of x1 and y1 to be 3 and negative 2. And x2 and y2 is going to be 6, 0. So now we work it out. We plug in m equals, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. M equals y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. It's hard to read right there, but that's what that says. Okay, I fixed it so maybe you can see it better. x2 minus x1. We plug in our numbers right here. So we had a 0 for the x2 minus a negative 2 for the other y1. That's over 6 minus 3, 6 minus 3. That equals 0 plus 2, and over 3, and we end up with 1/3 is the answer there, or 2/3, sorry. Now it says to write the equation of the line using point-slope form, because you don't know the y-intercept. So we don't know where this line is crossing. You have y, this is the same one I've already said, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That's the point slope right there. So just to clarify, so you have to work all of this out to get down, to be able to plug in your numbers for the point slope method. we have here, we're using the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, the point slope formula. So on our graph over here, we have 2 points that it gave us, 6 and 0 and 0 and negative 4. When we work it out, we're going to find out right here where it crosses at the y, but we don't know that right now. We just know these, we just know the coordinates 6 and 0 and 3 and negative 2. This is what we have to figure out, although I've already put the answer right here. But so we go back and we plug in our we substitute in our answers. So we have y1 was negative 2, which is right here, and that equals 2/3, which was the slope. We know that's the slope. So on the previous screen, we figured out this right here. We figured out the slope here, which was 2/3. So we'll have to carry that over. So if you're confused, go back to the previous screen. I showed how to get the 2/3. So now what we're going to do is plug in our numbers. So we have y minus y1. We have to use the the point slope to get the answer here, since we don't know the y-intercept. So we have the negative 2, which comes from here, equals the slope, which is there, x minus, and then the x1 was 3. We can then work it out all the way. X plus 2 equals 2/3x minus, and then I distributed it, so it was 2/3 times 3/1. And then we have y plus 2 equals 2/3x minus 6/3, because that was 2 times 3 was 6. We continue to, we had y plus 2 equals 2/3x, and that comes out to be negative 2, because 3 goes into negative 6 here 2 times. We're going to subtract negative 2 from both sides, and we end up with y plus 2 equals 2/3x minus 4. And so now we know that this negative 4 is where this line is going to be over here. That's the y-intercept. So the first thing we did was figured out the slope using the slope formula, and then once we had the slope, we could go back and do the point slope form to figure out where the y-intercept is. Write in slope-intercept, sometimes that pointer part goes away, turns it into writing. Write in slope-intercept form the equation of the line that passes through the given points, and then you can check your answer, which I already did, so just ignore the little graph over here. We're given the points 2 and 3 and 4 and 7. Now you might be asking, if we're going further, which coordinates, if you got a pair that's given to you, become x1 and y1 and x2 and y2, and it really doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer either way. I was always used maybe the negatives, as if you have a negative number, you only have one of them has a negative number, to use that as the x1 and y1, but it should all work out depending on any 2 random points on a thing. You can put either one as x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. So our coordinates again were 2 and 3 and 4 and 7. We figure out our slope using m equals y2 minus y1 and x2 minus x1. So that is 7 and minus 3. There's the 7, there's the 3, over 4 and 2. That equals 4/2, which comes out to be 2. So now we know our slope is 2. Now we use the point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y, and so we plug in our numbers, substitute in our numbers. We have y minus 3 equals 2. X minus 2, I plugged in my slope right there, which we figured out right there was 2. Y minus 3 equals 2x minus 4 when I distribute the 2 here. And then I add 3 to both sides, and I end up with y equals 2x minus 1. and then I can check and see if my line does go through there. The intercept here is the that's going to be the y-intercept or the b, and you can see that that crosses right there at the 1, -1. So that's what we needed to find out, was what the y-intercept is. Okay, so now we have 2 points. We have -4, 5, and 4 and 5, 2 and 2. We're going to use the 2 and 2 to be our y2 and x2 points. So I plug into my slope formula here, and I end up with 2 minus 5 and 2 minus a -4. So m equals 2 minus 5, and the 2 negatives here turn that into a plus sign. So we have 2 plus 4. We end up with -3 and 6, -1/2 once I reduce that. And so my slope is -1/2. I now use my point slope form. Plug in my numbers. That's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I plug in my 2 for my x1. I plug in my -1/2 for my slope, and I plug in my x2, which is 2. And so I end up with y minus 2 equals -1/2 times x minus 2. I subtract 2 from both sides. That's y, and then I end up with y equals -1/2 x plus 3. 2 more coordinates are 1 and -1 and 4 and -4. I figure out my slope. That's going to be -4 minus -1 over 4 minus 1. That's going to give me 3/3, which is going to equal 1. I now use my point slope method and plug in my numbers. I have the -1. I'm using the, again, I've marked over here which ones I'm using to be my x2 and y2s, or x1s and y1s. And this is -y1, and this is, and right here we put the slope, which we figured out was, and I subtract -1 from both sides. I end up with x equals -x plus 0, and I can just drop the 0, and y equals -x there. How to decide which form to use. Do you use the slope-intercept form, or do you use the point-slope form? So you write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So we have 4 and -2, and 0 and 2 as our coordinates. We figure out our slope, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I plug in my numbers. I have 2 there, and minus a -2, and I have 0 here and a 4 here, and that's going to end up 2 plus 2 over -4, and then that's negative, negative 4 over 4, and that comes out to be negative 1. And in this case, since we know the y-intercept, because I can see it in the book on page 287, I'm looking at the first example, example 3, and then number A on there. And I can look on that line, I see my coordinates 0, 2, and 4, and negative 2. I can see that my y-intercept is crossing at 0, so I know the y-intercept. So I can just go ahead and use the slope-intercept form here. Y-intercept is b equals 2, because I can see that from that graph on A there, example 3a. I fill in my formula, y equals mx plus b. The m is going to be negative 1, and my b is 2, which was right here, and now my answer is y equals negative x plus 2.
Producing the Subway Italian Hero. It's stacked with our better Italian flavor for a better Subway. On March 21st, bring home the #1 comedy of the year. Get ready, get set for more Sing, featuring 3 new mini movies. Sing Special Edition on digital now on Blu-ray March 21st.
As an actor playing computer specialist, I'm inspired by women like Reshma Sajani, founder of an organization working to close the gender gap in technology and engineering. Celebrate women's history.
So your friend's secret wife turns out to be...
You're a model?
Will wonders ever cease? You invent the sign boom? Playing with the plants news next. Live from Vegas, Vegas Cinema on CBS Sunday, April 2nd.
The Reuben hails from New York, but with Arby's new Reuben, with double the meat, they should rename the city New York, New York. Arby's, we have the meat.
Whoa, I can't unsee this, can I? Well, we saved Porky, but after rating all the couch cushions, I'm still 60 cents short. You know these are people's wishes, right? Well, maybe they were wishing for a new car. And what perfect time? It's Luber's Dollar Down Days. We'll take any coin combination that adds up to $1. 4 quarters, 10 dimes, 20. So gather your loose change and let us get it done for one. Dollar Down Days extended for a limited time. We're moving on. Oh, make a splash in your new ride from Luber. The friendly way to buy.
The difference between fish in the ocean and fish on a sandwich is that when ocean fish swim in pairs, they're less likely to get eaten. Arby's, we have the meat.
Hurt in a car wreck or hurt by medical malpractice? Get the compensation you deserve. Call Noble Fullspin.
What's up?
Mr. Casey, what are you doing here?
Waiting for the store to open. Get ready to chat out on a nice Danish. Compliments of the beautiful break room they got there. Only for salespeople.
You wasn't going to pay them?
Oh, very sick. Mark called me up to the bigs. Smack. He threatened to play war.
Not at all, because when Joey returns, you'll be heading back to the hot box.
Not a chance. Once Mark sees my insane people skills, the only person going back to the hot box is you.
Dream on. I'm already the top salesman. Oh, and out here, they don't call me Scott. Just the machine.
Not machine. I already felt the cool air, the nice poly blend against my skin, so I'm doing everything it takes to stay out of here. That's what's happening. All right, fire it up.
Thank you for shopping at Best Box. Your warranty is in the bag.
Hey, you looking at the 65-inch 4K, huh? It's a game changer. You'll be sitting at home watching Wheel of Fortune. You think you're sitting on Sajak's shoulders. Kevin Gable, sales associate.
Is this one of those smart TVs?
Oh, yeah. Smart as you come. Watch this. Sit. Stay. Let's get this bad boy tied to the roof of your car. We'll get you home.
I think I'll look around a little bit more.
Okay, but the sale's not going to last much longer.
It says it's on sale for the whole season.
That's how I was 2 years old.
Personally, I find that a good
sound system is as important as the picture itself. Now, with these, you get the movie theatre experience without ever leaving the house.
Trust me, he knows a lot about not leaving the house.
I will check that these are in stock, and I'll be sure to get you a great deal.
Thank you. By the way, where are you from? We love your accent.
Birmingham, England.
Knew it. Told you. Your coworker's wonderful. With that accent, he could sell me anything.
Not bad for a guy who's down on parole. He's still wrestling with some demons, but you make sure you get your credit card back. Hey, I know why you're out selling me.
Because I took the time to read the manuals on our products.
No, it's a stupid fake accent. Hello. Fancy a subwoofer, do you?
Just looking around, but I need one that's HDMI compatible.
Oh, we're luck, mate. They all roll.
That's an interesting accent. Where are you from?
Rock round London.
Where exactly?
By the bridge. The London Bridge. After it fell down. They built it.
Really? Because I used to live in London, and nobody talks to me.
Nobody was kicked by a horse when I was young.
These are all excellent headphones. These are more expensive, but they're the best.
How about those mats, huh?
Pay you a favor.
Now, where would I help you, traitor?
I'll buy you lunch and then you can eat it right here.
I so badly want to say no right now, but you have found my Achilles heel. Hey,
Well, hey, there he is, the lady killer.
I brought you guys some new venison. I don't think that other stuff was venison. Nobody ate it, right?
No.
So, I think we know who your date for the wedding's gonna be.
Yeah?
Oh, you talking about Kate? Yeah, that'd be a hard pass.
Why?
Nice gal, but, you know, the smile was a deal breaker. Didn't love the shade of her choppers.
What? Her teeth are white.
Well, more of an eggshell. I need, like, new golf ball ring.
Okay, so let me get this straight. We set you up with this incredible girl who's into you, and you don't like her because her teeth are not golf ball white?
New golf ball ring. Plus, the girl's got emotional issues. When I pulled over to get her crest whitening strips, she flipped out on me. I hate you. I'm not going to the wedding. Unstable.
Come. You're aware that you're 52 and you live alone and you're kind of shaped like a peanut M&M, right? What are you waiting for?
I'm waiting for the full package.
Can you believe that? Okay, but actually, if Kate's not coming to the wedding, that means no Kate and no +1, and that's 2 people we just saved. Ka-ching!
You know what? You're right. You held the mirror to my face, and I didn't like what I saw. This is what I do. I sabotage myself. That's why I'm alone. You know what? I'm gonna call her. Her teeth were fine.
What, but were they? I mean, really?
Genji, right? Yeah, see, I knew it. You know, forget her. I deserve better.
I'm sorry. I thought we had them in stock, but the guys in the back are saying that we're out.
Okay, well, thanks anyway. Hey, anybody looking for a SP 700?
extended warranty.
On this being dissolved. I make rubber bank. Maybe you're having a stroke.
I'm just tired.
On the second example on page 287, example 3b, we're given, we can look at that graph and we can see that we have the points of 3 and -1 and 4 and 2. To figure out my slope, I plug in all my points up here, and I end up with 2 minus a -1 over 4 minus 3. Negative and a negative is positive, so I end up with 3 over 1, and that is just simply 3. I use my my point slope form and plug in my numbers. So I had y1 goes there, my slope goes there, and my x1 is right there, goes there. So now I end up with y plus 1 equals 3x minus 9. I subtract 1 from both sides, and I end up with y equals 3x minus 10, and the y-intercept is -10, which I can see on my graph. It doesn't show -10 on B there, so I can just surmise that the line will continue going on that one. Make sure as I'm going through these problems that you understand how I got the answer. You may need to go back and watch it and work through the problems to do it. It seems simple, but it can be a little difficult when you go to do the homework. This is the B graph that I was just talking about a minute ago. I tried to draw my silly line all the way through to the 10 there. Y-intercept is 10, and that was the formula that we just had, or the equation, y equals 3x minus 10. How do you know which form to use? If you have the coordinates on this example, 0 and 3 and 4 and 5, and this is in the book, it shows me this example. Here's my 0 and 3 coordinate and my 4 and 5 coordinate. I can see that this on my the x is 0, so this is crossing at my y-axis right here, and it is 3. So since I know B, where the line crosses at the B-intercept, I can use the slope-intercept form. And so I plug in my numbers to find my slope. I have 5 minus 3 over 4 minus 0. That's just using the coordinates here. That equals 2 over 4, and that equals 1/2. And then I have to plug in my y equals mx plus b, and so my m is my slope right here. B is my 3 right there where it crosses. So my answer is y equals 1/2 x plus 3. If we don't know where the line crosses y, then we have to use the point slope equation. And our coordinates in this example are 1 and 2, and 2 and negative 3. And again, we're using the point slope. And I charted my 1 and 2 here, and my 2 and negative 3 coordinates. I can surmise that, just looking at this, that it probably is going to go up here and cross at the 7. I figure out my slope. M is negative 3 minus 2 over 2 minus 1. That is negative 5 over 1 equals negative 5. I use the point slope form. Plug in my y1 here, my x1 there, and my slope, which was 5. I distribute that out. That would be negative 5x plus 5 on this side. I add 2 to both sides, and I end up with y equals negative 5x plus 7. So to summarize, we want to find the slope. We need to find the slope, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We write the equation of the line, and we use the slope-intercept form if we know the y-intercept, if we know b. If not, we have to use the point, and that's not right here. We use the point slope form. I had an I there instead of an S. If you do not know the y-intercept, and then that is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. This is the English Channel. It's a railroad tunnel that goes from England to France across the English Channel. It's considered one of the most ambitious engineering feats in the 20th century. My friend that lives in England has taken that. It sounds kind of weird to me that you're underwater, that whole, to get there in that Underground Railroad. But anyhow, your assignments today are 12 through 14, 21 through 23, 27 through 29, 33 through 36, 40, 41, 44, and 55 even. The even ones are 44 through 58. That's going to start on page 288 to 290. That's lesson 5.3 in Algebra 1.